Well, here I am. Hi, friends. Welcome to What If Wednesday. It's Mindy Odlin, and I'm excited to connect with you this week and every week. I thought I'd connect with you here live streaming just because I love engaging with you. So, hoping that you're around. You can pop in, you can say hi, share your comments, share your ideas, share your wins. And let's connect this week. So, as a theme for the week, I've been reading this fabulous book called From What Is to What If, given to me by my fabulous friend, Joe Vitale. Thank you, Joe, for the fabulous read. So, of course, people see What If and they think of us. They think of the What If Up Club. And so, as I was reading this, the question What If is really important here. And one of the things that I love about this book is it's about using the power of What If to ask questions that create cultural societal change, particularly as it relates to climate change. So, what I want to share with you today is a few tips that I got, few little notes I have, some gems that I walked away with, and some of them are related to things that we can use here in our What If Up Club. In fact, we do this already, but we can do it. What if we could do it better and better and better? So, I'm going to share with you 3 tips plus a bonus tip on how to ask really powerful what if questions. So, if you're new to the What If Up Club, we are a global movement of forward thinking optimists who gather in small groups to spread hope, to build connection, and to inspire positive change. And that's what this book is about. How do we not only inspire that change, but then mobilize, connect so that we can turn those changes into new realities, sustainable, healthy, happy realities? So, the premise of this book is that it begins with the question, a powerful question. So I want to share with you the quote. There's a quote at the beginning of each chapter, which of course is always a great way to kick off a chapter. The quote at the beginning of this one that I really think is awesome is from Liu and Scott Noppe-Brandon. Hope I'm saying that right. From an organization called Imagination First. And the chapter is actually called "What If We Started Asking Better Questions?" Now I got to say this: in the What If Up Club, we say you can't do this wrong. So if you are one of those people who is very critical of yourself, just throw out what ifs, right? We do a lot of that just to get our brain geared up and in that possibility mode. Ideas come from ideas. So just start where you are and don't worry about, is my idea the best possible what if? If you've been what if upping for a while and you're like, I want to get really good at this, I want to really hone in my what if questions, you're going to love some of these tips I want to share with you today. So, the quote that he uses to start off this chapter is: "It's time for our society to get going on an intentional, dedicated, systemic effort to up our imagination quotient." The real IQ is imagination, the real IQ, and to do it at work, at home, in school, at play, and in our community life. So, this is about upping our IQ, our imagination quotient, which I think is so cool. So, what they start with here is a story about something that happened in the UK. The author is in the UK, and it started with a powerful question in a town. I don't know how big the town was, but the town had was an urban area, and they had a bus depot that was sort of at the center of the town. And so the buses would come and go, and there's lots of traffic and fumes, and not exactly a place you'd want to hang out at the bus depot, right? Just because there's a lot of traffic and things. But they came up with this idea, like, what if, in looking at their town, what if they created a circle in that circle space where the buses turned around? What if that was the village green? Like, what if that was the center of town and they made it a green space? So that was the what if that they began with. And so, obviously, when you have a big idea like that, it's like, well, how do you turn that into a reality? Like, there's plenty of people who say, well, that's impossible. That's the bus depot. How could you possibly do that? Or that would never work, or it's impossible. All the things that you come up against that are limitations. So what they decided to do was, it's like, okay, well, what if we start small? What if we just made it the village green for one day? just to see, just to show that it's possible. So they decided for one day, like 2,000 volunteers came together, and they redirected the buses. They got the permit to have the buses go somewhere else for that day. And they brought in turf, they brought in green space, they brought in potted plants, they had musicians, they had artists, and it became the town green space for one day. That's where they started. Like, let's start with one day. And if we can do it for one day, then that means we could do it for more than one day. And so they had this amazing event, this amazing idea that kicked the whole thing off. And the implementation began with one tiny possibility, one day. So if someone says, hey, you can't do that, that's impossible, they can say, well, we did it once. What if we did it again? So this particular chapter of the book is about asking different kinds of questions, asking what if questions. Here in the What If Up Club, we do it a lot for ourselves. Like what if I find that new job? What if I have more life balance? What if I can pay my bills? I have financial abundance, all those things. But what if we took it to the next level? What if we started looking at how we can use our what if questions to really create some significant changes in our culture, in our communities, and in the world? What if all those changes that we see, all those challenges that seem like impossible challenges, what if they're just really waiting for us to ask the right question and then to mobilize around that question? So here are some tips for how to do that. Okay, so it says this chapter is about asking what if questions. And the way what if is used in this book, it says that means questions that unlock the imagination in service to the big challenges that we face. It's about more than the question. The question is simply a means to open the door, creating a crack through which we might push and rush to the other side. So I love that idea of these what ifs. We don't just what if because it's fun, although it is. We don't just what if because it feels good, although it does. But we what if because it creates a crack in that door that seems so impossible to move. Suddenly it creaks open just a little bit. And once it creaks open just a little bit, it kind of gives us some leverage to be able to go to a different level. So that's the type of what ifs that we're talking about today. All right. So I'm going to share with you 3 tips, according to the author here. 3 things that describe a really solid, powerful what if question. So for those of you who are perfectionists, you're going to love this. Actually, for those of you who just want to take it to the next level, you want to level up your imagination, this is a really great thing to look at when you're generating what if ideas. Okay, so first thing to look for, it says, what makes a great what if question? First is that the people asking it have to be genuinely curious, because the people you're asking will have an instinctive understanding if the question is coming from a genuine place of curiosity and openness or not. I've heard some what ifs where really it's like they're not asking a what if question. They're trying. I've heard, what if this traffic clears up? It's like that's not really a what if question. That's a complaint about the traffic, right? So a good what if question is genuinely coming from a place of curiosity and a place of looking to expand, looking for that window of opportunity and knowing that it's possible. So first step of a good what if question, are you genuinely curious? Got it? All right. Second part of a good what if question is that it must be a question that can be answered in many different ways. So it ignites a possibility of response from different angles and a trust that all responses will be accepted. So that's one of the things that we do in the What If Up Club is when we ask what if questions and say, what if, what if, what if, our culture is that we respond to those what ifs with a thank you. Every idea is received. Every idea is a gift. So the second piece of a good what if question here is that it is a what if question that has many different ways you can answer it. And not all of those are ours to do, but it's great to look at it from all those different perspectives. So does your what if question allow for many different perspectives and how we could answer that? And the third thing it says is that it should offer a sideways look at something that triggers a moment of pause, like lifting a curtain. And it's a glimpse of something that you can step into. So a really good what if question gives us a glimpse of what's possible that may not be our current reality, but it may be something that we could mobilize, and move into. So those are the 3 steps. Now, it also gives a sort of a bonus thing to look for. Uh, and this might seem sort of ironic or contradictory, but it says one of the things that makes for a really good what if question is there is a level of limitation surrounding it. There is a level of constraint. There is a level of, well, I can't do this and I can't do this, but what if we could do that? Right. And the idea is that when you're creating, that constraint and limitation and challenge, all those things actually are really great for stimulating the imagination. It's, when you have a blank canvas, it can be anything, but when you have some parameters around it, sometimes it gets us thinking in new and creative ways. For example, one of the games that I used to play with my daughter back during the pandemic when we were always like looking for things to do to pass the time, she had this little book and she would say, Mom, give me what'd she call it? A scribble. Give me a scribble. So she'd give me this blank piece of paper, and she knew I was busy. She knew I didn't have time to like sit down and really think through what I was going to do for her. But I just take my pen and I just mark on it. I'd mark on a piece of paper and a squiggle. So she's like, hey, give me a squiggle. So I squiggle on her paper. And then she'd come back 10, 15 minutes later, and she would show me what she had drawn from my squiggle. So she would take whatever was on the paper and turn it into something. So it's kind of what they're saying here is we actually become more creative. We can tap into our imagination in a more powerful way sometimes when we have limitation and constraint. I actually heard Jim Carrey talk about this once too. He said, when you go and perform and you can absolutely do anything, sometimes it's not as creative as when you go into, here's a little theater and here's where you can stand and here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. You can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do that. And so you have to get really creative to figure out, well, what could I do that would be unique in this situation? Now, the good news is, I don't know if it's good news, but what if it is? We have plenty of constraints around us in terms of looking at, in this case, looking at climate solutions, looking at the challenges that we face going forward. We can't keep doing the things that we've been doing. We know this. So what if we could identify what those constraints are, look at the future that we want to create, and use the power of the imagination to use those constraints to get very creative on the future that we want to create. It says boundless, endless freedom, oddly enough, does not engender the imagination. What engenders the imagination is a deadline and some limits. And sometimes that's where we get our most creative ideas. So let me give you some examples. Here's some what if ideas. And I would say these are all what if up ideas, because in what if upping, we say the idea is positive, it's uplifting, it creates possibility, and it feels good to step into that possibility, into that vision. So take a breath in and feel these possibilities. All right. So this is looking at big what if questions. What if we could really step into this and create some powerful transformational change? What if we were to massively de escalate the crisis of anxiety across our culture? Can you see how you could take that question and you could take that into your groups? You could take that into your teams. You could take that into your organizations, and you could create strategies around that. You could create solutions around that. One idea, one powerful what if idea. Here's another one. What if every university declared a climate and ecological emergency and all of its courses were taught through that lens? So if I'm at a university, I could say, okay, we're going to take on this possibility and we're going to let this possibility guide us in our curriculum development. What if we created a fossil fuel free energy system within 20 years? What if we could do that? What if urban agriculture became utterly commonplace? What if our cities became huge biodiversity reserves? What if single use plastics were something we only saw in museums? So, those are some examples of some really big what if questions. So, this week, the challenge is, if you are up for it, is to generate your own really big what if possibilities. What's a possibility you could take into your organization, into your church, into your home, into your businesses? What's a possibility that you would think maybe I could mobilize around this, a small group? Maybe I can mobilize my family, my friends, my community around this kind of an idea. Share the idea in our community, and we can create some solutions for it. Like, what if we take one idea? Let's see. I don't know. I'll throw one out there this week. Maybe I'll throw one out every day. What if we take one of these ideas and just generate, well, here's what we could do. We could do this. We could do this. What if we tried that? What if we did this? What if we did that? And notice where you feel inspired. So thank you, Rob Hopkins, for your book, From What Is to What If, Unleashing the Power of Imagination to Create the Future That We Want. I will put a link to it down below in the comments so you can check it out if you'd like to. Would love to hear your thoughts about it. And also would love to hear your big ideas. So share them in the comments, share them in our community, and let's think big. What if we actually take some of these ideas and turn them into reality? So have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next time right here. Happy What If Wednesday, everybody. Bye-bye.